Today I'm going to be fitting a TTS Sound decoder. This is for a J36. It's the first Steam one that I've actually used, and I'm going to be installing it on one of the locomotives that will be running on Lochdoon, which is the Hornby ex-North British Railway J36 class. The one that I've got is 65311 Hague, as a number of them were named in honour of the service that they did in the First World War after war heroes and generals and so on. But I'll probably be renumbering this one to one that was shedded somewhere in the Highlands rather than Hague, which spent its life at places like Bathgate and Edinburgh and so on. So what do you get in the box? Well, you actually get Hornby's very comprehensive manual for the sound decoder, which covers all the things that you would need to know, all the various functions, also how to change the volume on them, how to make adjustments to the motor algorithm so that it can run better. The only thing I notice is that it doesn't have the ability to change CV5, which is the maximum voltage. And I think that's probably the only emission in terms of CVs that it's got. So bearing in mind the limitations of the TTS sound decoder, it can only play 2 sounds at once. I think that's quite comprehensive. You also get a guide into fitting these into your locomotive. It does say it can be fitted into any locomotive that can physically accommodate it, and I'll be looking at trying that out at some point in the future, making a note of how much current it can supply to the motor. Now, it does say here that the decoder should fit into any of the recent highly detailed steam engines without any modification. Although it does note that the tender weight may need to be modified in order to fit the speaker. So we'll have a look at that. And of course you get the decoder and speaker with it. Now, I'm probably going to look at upgrading the speaker to a slightly better one in the near future, but I thought it worthwhile to test it out with the supplied speaker, but obviously check to see if the decoder works before making any alterations to it, but also just to see what it sounds like as a steam engine. Like I said, I've never fitted a TTS steam decoder. I've done a couple of Class 66s, but none into the steam engines. So the first thing to do is obviously detach the tender from the locomotive. The decoder socket is actually fitted in the tender, although the motor is in the engine itself, and Hornby have their connection of wires going from the loco into the tender to supply pickups and motor control. So we'll unplug that as well. As you can see, it's actually a really lovely model. If you look at the cab detail, don't know how much of that you can see in there, but it's a lovely painted cab with all the levers picked out in red or brass, etc. And it's just crying out for a crew to be in there, so we'll hopefully be able to do that. Removable coal load, which might get replaced with some real coal as well. Now, I'm just referring to the service sheet, which came with the model. If you don't have a service sheet, then they are all shown on the Hornby website. So it's worth having a look at that before you do anything. And I think we can see that from that we need to remove these two screws here and here at the front of the tender, and then it should be able to be just lifted right off. Or at least that's the theory. And this is the point where I realise that having magnetic screwdrivers really does help with getting these little tiny screws out and also putting them back in again. And there's the decoder socket, wires from the pickup plug. See, this is the weight that was down there, so we'll need to undo these as well. See, the instructions on the service sheet don't say you need to unscrew the decoder socket from the weight in order to fit the and with the decoder socket unscrewed from the weight should just easily lift out, or at least out of the way. Now there's a capacitor wired across the DCC socket, although I see it's actually come out, so I might just sort of snip that off, because I normally take these things out, although some people say you shouldn't. Some people aren't bothered either way. I usually take them out. If we have a look there, we can see where the speaker is supposed to sit. Well, obviously there's wires going in underneath there. Kind of think that the easiest thing in the world would be to fit the Hornby speaker into the Hornby locomotive that it was designed for, but no. Right, I've skipped ahead a bit here because I've just spent the last 2.5 hours filing away bits of the tender weight to try and fit the speaker in and get it to sit down properly, and then I tried filing off bits of the speaker enclosure, and I then did a search on RM Web, and someone had taken out the speaker and the sound chip out of the sound fitted one, and it was obvious from that the factory fitted sound model did not have the plastic enclosure. So I eventually managed to get it to fit doing that. Hopefully the body is now going to sit back on with no problems. So there we have it. The tender body just about fits back on. Although I see I need to tighten up the screw on that side a little bit. Does look a little bit right, so we just need to connect it back up again. Right, I haven't changed any CVs or any other settings. So this is just how it is straight out of the box. So let's try and hear what the sounds are like. That's the fireman's breakfast. Not too convinced about that one. Seems to stutter. I'm not quite sure whether that's the test track or... because the loco was working perfectly fine on lockdown, on DC. I guess what we need to do now is test it out on lockdown. And this is the problem I've got at the moment with it, in that despite the track being clean, despite the loco working perfectly on DC, it seems to stutter with the DCC sound. And I've taken it apart and I've put it back together again. I can't see anything wrong with the pickups. It's sometimes it just needs a little nudge, sometimes just a tiny amount of pressure on the loco or on the tender will reconnect it almost. But there seems to be no rhyme or reason. If you've got any ideas, please leave a message in the comments, because I'm really puzzled as to what's gone wrong here and how to fix it, because it's a lovely engine and sound adds so much to the layout experience. So as you can see, it was actually a really difficult install, and for something that's designed to be installed very easily, it required a lot more work than it should have done. So Hornby, sort yourselves out. If you're selling a decoder for a locomotive that you make, it ought to fit in fairly easily. And on top of that, we've got the problem where it seems to stutter on DCC. Such a shame, because it's a lovely loco and it's a sound adds so much to the atmosphere of a layout. And it's something I really want to get into. So if you've got any ideas as to what might be causing that issue, let me know down in the comments down below. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell and hit like if you want to find out more videos. If you want to see my other DCC installs, check out the link on screen here, and of course check out some of my other videos. See you next time. Thanks. Bye.